There is a very specific kind of professional paralysis that I think most of you listening have probably felt at some point.
Oh, yeah,
And
absolutely.
it's not about a lack of skill. It's actually, well, it's the exact opposite. It's about having almost too much experience. You're at a dinner party and someone asks, so what do you do? And your brain just totally short circuits.
Right. It's the curse of competence. You just know too much to give a simple answer.
Exactly. You've got like 10, maybe 15 years of deep expertise. You've led teams, you've solved complex problems, maybe even saved a company or two. But when you try to actually summarize it, you feel like you're either bragging or you're leaving out the most important parts.
Yeah. So you just end up saying something vague like, oh, I work in consulting or I'm in project management.
Which tells nobody anything.
It tells them absolutely nothing. It is a massive signal-to-noise problem. You know the nuance of your work so incredibly well, you feel dishonest leaving the details out. But by keeping all those details in, you just confuse the audience. It's a classic catch-22.
And that confusion, it leads to invisibility. We see these brilliant people, right? People with PhDs, decades of experience who are practically ghosts on platforms like LinkedIn because they just don't know how to package themselves. They just freeze up.
They absolutely freeze.
Well, today we are doing a deep dive into a source that claims to actually solve this paralysis. And I'll be honest, when I first looked at the methodology here, I was a little skeptical. It seemed, it almost seemed too lazy to actually be effective.
Lazy is a pretty strong word there. I'd argue it's incredibly efficient.
Yes.
But you're right. It does require a very specific type of psychological vulnerability to actually work. It's definitely not just a push button and get a brand kind of thing.
Fair enough. So we are breaking down a session from Dr. iOS over at the channel AI Vantage Digital Business. And this is a real-time demonstration where he uses AI, specifically ChatGPT, not to just write generic marketing copy, but to act as what he calls a clarity partner. And that is a huge distinction for us today.
It really is. I mean,
Yeah.
most people, they use AI as a cheap copywriter. They say, hey, write me a post about leadership. And they get back something that sounds like a corporate press release from 1995.
Right. All synergy and paradigms.
Exactly. But Dr. iOS is doing something completely different. He is using the AI as an objective strategist. He's using it to extract his actual identity from a really chaotic mess of his own thoughts.
So let's kind of set the scene for the listeners. The source material here isn't some highly polished tutorial. It is Dr. iOS seemingly pretty frustrated sitting down to fix his own branding problem.
Right, he's in the trenches with it.
Yeah, he knows he's a researcher, he's an author, a public speaker, but he feels totally scattered. He just can't pin down his lane. He's got all the ingredients, but he has no recipe.
And this actually brings us to the first major insight of this deep dive, which is that the medium really matters. Notice exactly how he starts this process. He doesn't open up a blank Word document and start typing.
No, he doesn't. He explicitly says, I don't like typing. I love dictating. And he just hits the microphone button on the app. And for anyone who thinks, well, that's just a personal preference, you're saying there's actually a lot more to it.
Oh, there's a massive neurological difference here.
Yeah.
When you type, you are actively engaging your linear editorial brain. You type a sentence, you delete half of it, you fix a comma. You wonder if synergy is the right word. You are literally filtering the idea before you've even finished the thought.
You're editing while you create. That's that internal editor we all battle with every day.
Precisely. It's the harsh critic in your head.
Yeah.
But when you dictate, especially if you do what the source calls a brain dump, you are completely bypassing that internal editor. You're accessing the associative part of your brain, and you're speaking faster than you can actually critique yourself.
The source is actually pretty funny about this part. He advises you to just pour out your heart like you are talking to a friend. And in the audio, he's stuttering, he's stammering, he's complaining. At one point, he basically just says, I'm struggling, this is hard, I want to be strict about my brand, but I don't know how. It's really messy.
And that messiness, that is the secret sauce here. Because think about it, if you were talking to a human colleague, you would instinctively hide that struggle. You want to look competent, right? But the AI is a totally non-judgmental entity.
Right. It doesn't care if you sound silly.
Exactly. By admitting I feel stuck and I want to help people, but I'm overwhelmed, he is giving the AI what I like to call emotional context tokens.
Emotional context tokens. I really like that phrase. Break that down for us a bit. Why does the AI need to know that I'm frustrated?
Because AI models work entirely on prediction. If you just give them dry facts, like I am a researcher, I have 10 years experience, they predict dry corporate output. You just get a bio that sounds exactly like a boring resume.
Right, it's just matching the tone.
Exactly. But if you give them emotional data, like I am frustrated because I have all this knowledge but no income from it, the AI understands the actual stakes. It understands the core pain point. And then it can craft a brand voice that resonates with other human beings who are feeling that exact same pain.
So by being messy, he actually gets a much sharper and more human result.
100%.
Hmm.
The mess provides the texture. If you strip out the ums and the uhs and the raw frustration,
Yes.
you strip out the humanity. The AI desperately needs that humanity to build a personal brand that doesn't just sound like a robot wrote it.
Okay, so he records this rambling, totally chaotic voice note. He tells the AI, look, help me out here. I need a personal brand statement and I need content ideas. And he hits send. Now, this is the exact moment where I fully expected the AI to come back with something incredibly generic like unlock your true potential, because that's usually the default setting for these tools.
But it didn't do that at all.
It really didn't. The output was shockingly specific. Let's look at the actual brand statement it generated for him. It said, I help educators, professionals, and knowledge-driven entrepreneurs future-proof their career by leveraging AI and digital tools to amplify their voice package, their expertise, and turn knowledge into sustainable income and impact.
That is an incredibly dense sentence.
Yeah.
In the business, we call that a value proposition. And it answers three vital questions immediately. Who do I help?
Yeah.
How do I help them? And what is the tangible result?
It totally nailed the who part.
Mm-hmm.
It identified three very distinct avatars, right? Educators, professionals, and knowledge-driven entrepreneurs.
And notice something really important here. He did not explicitly say, I want to target these three groups in that messy voice note. The AI completely inferred it from his stories.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It heard him talking about his background in research, so that gives you the educators. It heard him talking about business structure, so there's the professionals. And it heard him venting about making money from his ideas, which gives you the entrepreneurs. It synthesized all those loose, chaotic threads into a very specific niche.
The source makes a really big point here that I think trips up a whole lot of people when they try to do this. He says you just can't help everybody.
Right. It's the oldest marketing adage in the book. If you speak to everyone, you speak to absolutely no one.
No.
By narrowing it down to knowledge-driven entrepreneurs, the AI intentionally excludes, say, e-commerce dropshippers or crypto day traders.
Right.
And that exclusion is exactly what makes the brand strong. It tells the right people, hey, you belong here. This is for you.
I was also really struck by the promise part of that brand statement. It didn't just promise you will learn how to use ChatGPT. It promised sustainable income and impact.
That is the critical shift from features to benefits. A feature is I teach you AI tools. A benefit is you get to future-proof your career. The AI realized that Dr. iOS's deep insecurity, his fear of being irrelevant or going unheard, was exactly what his target audience fears too. So it made that the core promise. It's basically empathy weaponized for strategy.
Then it went a step further, which I loved, and it gave him unique selling points, or USPs. This is usually the hardest part of branding for anyone, figuring out why you are actually different from the 10,000 other people doing the exact same thing online.
What did it come up with that stood out to you the most?
It called him the educator who makes AI human. And it specifically used the phrase compassionate communication.
Compassionate communication. That is just brilliant positioning. Think about the current AI landscape out there. It's really intimidating. It's hyper-technical. It's cold. People are terrified they're going to lose their jobs to an algorithm.
Yeah, they're stressed.
So by positioning him as compassionate, the AI has carved out a complete blue ocean strategy. It's effectively saying, come to this guy if you're scared of the tech, because he's not going to make you feel stupid.
It also dumped him the knowledge monetization strategist.
And that addresses the imposter syndrome directly. Because in the voice note, the source mentioned feeling inadequate, maybe because he didn't have the classic MBA or he wasn't a traditional tech bro. The AI completely flipped that narrative. It said, no, your value isn't a business degree. Your value is strategy. It reframed a perceived weakness into a core strength.
It's almost therapeutic, isn't it?
It really is. It's deep validation. When you finally see your own messy, insecure thoughts reflected back to you as a polished professional strategy, it fundamentally changes how you see yourself. You stop thinking I'm a mess and you start thinking, oh, I actually have a highly unique perspective.
Which leads us perfectly to the next phase. So you have the brand statement, you finally know who you are, but as the source rightly points out, you can have the best mission statement in the entire world framed in gold on your office wall, but if nobody ever sees it, you are just a ghost.
Ghosting is a massive epidemic for highly skilled professionals. You see it all the time. You go to these LinkedIn profiles that haven't been updated since 2019. Maybe they share a bland company PR update once a year. The source links this paralysis directly to visibility anxiety.
We're terrified to post because we don't know exactly what to say, or we think every post has to be a peer-reviewed masterpiece.
Or we're just scared we'll be judged by our peers. You know, who am I to say this? What if my former boss or my grad school advisor sees this and thinks I'm a sellout?
So to fix this, Dr. iOS asked the AI for specific content ideas based on that exact same initial brain dump. And because the AI now fully understands his compassionate educator persona, it didn't just spit out generic topics, it gave him 3 distinct content pillars.
Let's really break those down because this is an absolute masterclass in content strategy. It didn't just lazily say post about AI updates.
No, definitely not. Pillar 1 was the academic journey versus financial reality.
And that right there is a conflict-driven narrative. It challenges the established status quo. It basically says the old path of getting a degree and getting a safe job just doesn't work the way it used to.
Yep.
That instantly grabs attention because it's a little bit controversial.
Then pillar 2 was pure practical value. It was 5 ways AI amplifies your voice.
That's your classic how-to content. It's highly actionable. People save it. People share it with their network. That is what builds true authority in a space.
And finally, pillar 3 was the personal pivot story, the journey of going from a researcher to a digital knowledge entrepreneur.
That's the hero's journey. That is what biz human connection. So just think about this. In one single prompt, the AI gave him a conflict post, a value post, and a vulnerability post. That beautifully covers the entire psychological funnel of audience engagement.
The source actually shows the raw text that the AI wrote for a LinkedIn post based on these pillars, and I have to say it was surprisingly poignant. It started with this hook. For years, I believed that knowledge alone was enough.
That's such a classic, powerful hook. It immediately validates the deep frustration of the reader who probably feels the same way.
And then it goes on to say, I invested in education, but there was a quiet reality. Expertise doesn't automatically translate into visibility, income, or impact.
Let's just stop there for a second. That sentence, that is the exact sound of someone reading your mind. If you are a professional listening to this who feels chronically underpaid and overworked, that sentence physically stops the scroll. And the AI wrote that purely based on a mumbled venting voice note.
It goes on to pivot to the actual solution, which is seeing yourself not just as a researcher, but stepping into the role of a knowledge entrepreneur.
It's actively inviting the audience into a brand new identity. That is what true influence does. It doesn't just teach you a new skill, it changes how you fundamentally define yourself.
And the practical real-world benefit here, as the source points out, is just pure efficiency. We are talking about generating a thoughtful LinkedIn post, a catchy TikTok script, and a deep dive newsletter, all from one single 10-minute dictation session.
It completely solves the blank page problem. If Dr. iOS had sat down at a keyboard to write that LinkedIn post from absolute scratch, he might have agonized over every single word for 2 hours. He'd be thinking, is this too boastful? Is this too sad? But because the AI generated a draft that was already 80% of the way there, he just had to step in and polish it. It drastically lowers the barrier to entry for gaining visibility.
But I do want to push back on this a little bit here. There is a very common criticism often leveled at this kind of AI usage, the fear that it's just flooding the internet with synthetic noise, that none of it is real, that we're just slowly moving toward a web where we're reading robots talking to other robots.
And that is a completely valid concern. If everyone uses AI to sound exactly the same, we just end up in a beige, totally generic internet devoid of personality.
Dr. iOS seems to really anticipate this exact fear, because he repeats a mantra throughout the source. He says amplification, not replacement.
Right. He uses the analogy of a guitar amplifier, which honestly I think is a perfect way to visualize this.
Yeah, he basically says the AI is the amp, but you are the guitar.
Exactly. An amplifier cannot inherently create music on its own. If you plug it in and turn the volume all the way up to 11, but you don't actually touch the strings, you just get that annoying hum. You just get static. You as the human have to strum the chord. Your lived experience, your pain, your years of expertise, that is the music. The AI simply makes it loud enough for the entire stadium to hear.
So if you actually have no real expertise, the AI is really just amplifying your ignorance.
Or amplifying your mediocrity. Yeah, this method only truly works for people who actually have something valuable to say, but just lack the marketing structure to say it clearly. It is explicitly for the expert who is quiet, not the novice who is already loud.
He also drops a pretty harsh truth bomb near the end about what he calls skill stacking. And I think this is going to sting just a little bit for some of our listeners who really love collecting certifications.
You mean the "you're still joking" comment? Yeah, that was pretty brutal.
Yeah, it was. He talks about people who constantly collect degrees, MBAs, PMPs, certifications in data science. They just stack them up on their wall like trophies. But he says if you can't communicate that value to the market, you are still joking.
It is an aggressive way to put it, but he is absolutely right. In the modern digital economy, credentials are quiet, content is loud.
Yeah.
You can have a PhD from a top-tier school, but if your digital real estate, your LinkedIn profile, your personal website looks like a total ghost town, opportunities will literally walk right past you. You're sitting there waiting to be discovered, but the world is just way too noisy for organic discovery anymore. You have to send up a signal.
He says your bio speaks for you day and night.
That is the core concept of asynchronous selling. While you are sleeping, a potential investor or a high-paying client is actively looking at your profile. Your profile is having a conversation with them right then and there. Is it a good, compelling conversation? Or is it a boring, outdated one? The AI simply helps ensure that that specific conversation is highly persuasive 24/7.
It's fascinating how much of the source material is actually just about human psychology and not the technology itself. We came into this deep dive talking about prompt engineering and ChatGPT, but we're really just talking about self-worth and professional identity.
It is almost entirely psychology. The technology is just a lever. The actual heavy lifting is the mindset shift. It's moving from the mindset of, I am an employee who executes tasks, to I am a personal brand that offers unique strategic value.
And using the AI almost as a mirror to finally see that value for yourself.
Exactly. Sometimes we just need an external party to tell us, hey, he's actually really good at this. And in this particular case, that external party just happens to be a large language model.
So let's quickly recap the protocol here for you listening, because this is something you can go do right now, literally the minute this deep dive ends. Step 1, do not type.
Right. Step 1, open the voice memo app on your phone or use the dictate function. Fully commit to the messy brain dump.
Step 2, be a mess. Complain, vent. Tell the AI your entire professional life story, your current frustrations, and your big goals. Do not edit out the ums and the ahs.
Step 3, give it a specific role. Tell it you are a highly paid brand strategist. Ask it to extract your core brand statement, your target avatars, and your 3 main content pillars.
And finally, step 4, use that polished output to update your digital real estate so you stop being a ghost online.
It really is all about closing that agonizing gap between your actual competence and your perceived competence in the market.
Now, before we let you go today, there was one specific statistic in the source that completely blew my mind. It was honestly just a throwaway line, but I think it captures the massive scale of the opportunity here better than absolutely anything else we've discussed.
Oh, I know exactly the one you're talking about, the storytelling class, right?
Yes. So he mentioned that he told a story into the AI for just 2 minutes. Just 2 minutes of raw audio. And the AI analyzed it and told him that within that single 2-minute story, there was enough core material for 47 different masterclasses.
47 masterclasses from 2 minutes of just talking.
That sounds literally impossible. My brain immediately goes to, how on earth is that possible? That's a quick anecdote.
It sounds impossible because we drastically undervalue our own lived experience. We think, oh, I just told a quick story about navigating a difficult client meeting. To us, it's just a mundane Tuesday. It's just what happened at work.
But to the AI, it's totally different.
The AI, which is explicitly trained to look for deep patterns and broader concepts, that single story contains separate lessons on negotiation, on emotional intelligence, on pricing strategy, on conflict resolution, body language, team leadership.
It's like it fractures the kaleidoscope.
Exactly. Every single one of those unique angles is a potential viral piece of content, a potential paid course, a potential consulting offer. We are all sitting on absolute mountains of valuable intellectual property, but we treat it like landfill. We just let it sit there in our heads.
And that is the exact challenge we want to leave you with today. You listening to this are likely sitting on a total goldmine of content right now. You already have the raw materials. The only thing you're missing is the amplifier.
So seriously, take 2 minutes today, record the story, and see if you can find your own 47 masterclasses.
You might just finally meet the professional version of yourself you've been waiting to become. Thanks for doing this deep dive with us.
See you next time.